In object-oriented programming, we are taking question and answer. How does procedural programming language is different from object-oriented programming language or programming? So the procedural programming, functional programming, or the structured programming, how it is differing from the OOPs? The first thing is that these are the concepts on which the object-oriented programming is based. These are the different, you can say, the basic building block. The procedural or functional programming is all about functions. So we have a main program and it calls different functions, and those functions in turn call different more functions. So it is all about functions. So procedural oriented programming is all about function. It is based on functions. While the object oriented programming, we are talking about real world entity representation, and that can be done using the objects. Okay, because object is coming from where? The blueprint class, and class is representing the real world scenario. So everything is object. In procedural oriented programming, it follows a top-down approach. That means you'll start with main program, then the functions will be called, and then the functions will be called. The object-oriented programming, it follows the bottom-up approach. First, we make the classes, we bind these data variables or data items with the functions, and then we combine the classes, or then we collaborate the classes. And that is how it forms a bottom-up approach. This is a bottom-up approach. Procedural language, the data is not secure. Even it is by itself not secure, because data cannot be hidden. See, in C program, the data can be written when you start from main. So here you write the data. It can be local data, and one more thing you can do is make the global data. So there is no secrecy, there is no privacy, there is no access, access specifier or modifier for that. But since in object-oriented programming we are saying int A, so we can give private, public, protected. That is, the object-oriented programming languages, they provide more security. That is, the data, the whole thing is around data only. So here the procedural oriented, data is visible to the whole program. As I said, you just have to declare, even in C, you have to declare it above any instruction where it is using. So data is visible to the whole program, whole functions. But object-oriented programming, the data is encapsulated inside a class. There is a proper capsule which is called as a class, and it contains the data members and the functions which are operating. So this is, I'm making a capsule here. In procedural, the reuse is not that much possible, though you can say the function can be reused, but in totality, you have to write more codes rather than what you are doing in object-oriented, because here you are making a class, then you make another class, and if you want to use the class A content, the first class content, what do? You just inherit that class. So that is, the inheritance is providing you the reusability. This is how the code can be reused. You don't, the kiloline of codes or the instructions, number of delivered instructions, they are less as compared to the procedural. In procedural, the modification and extension of code is not that easy, because you have to go to different functions, see where the function is being called, and then you do the modification. In object oriented, because you have different class and everything is bound, you know very clear cut structure. Now you can easily modify and extend the code. If you want to extend code, if you have 10 classes, you know which class you are going to go. You can extend the code there. In procedural, the examples are the C, Visual Basic, the formula translation or Fortran, the Pascal. In object-oriented, we have C++, Java, C#, and then we have the PHP and Python. They are also object-oriented. PHP is for web. for server-side programming. What are the differences between error and exception? So we will take the example of Java here. First, let me tell you here, they both belong to throwable class. So error and exception, but error should not be caught. You know, there are certain irrecoverable errors, but exceptions you can catch. You know it already. So error is error. You know, in any program, that even if it is procedural or any other, the errors are error. So they should not be caught. They could be declared, but they are irrecoverable. Now we are talking about exceptions. Exceptions we need to catch it. Sorry. So you need to be catching it. So should be caught. It could be declared, and they all are recoverable errors. So recoverable errors are nothing but exception. You know about the error now. The recoverable errors are exception. So they both belong to this throwable, right? You see the hierarchy. Okay, coming to the recoverable and irrecoverable. So exception can be recovered by using the try catch block. We write the try catch block inside try. If something happens, then you catch it. So, and you know how to catch it. There are all the scenarios if you actually go to the programming. The error cannot be recovered. The error has happened. It has happened. In terms of type, the exception, it can be classified into two categories, checked and unchecked. But in error, all errors in Java are unchecked. All errors in Java are unchecked, but the exceptions, they can be checked, they can also be unchecked. The occurrence, the exception can occur any time. It can occur in compile time or runtime. But the error will always happen. It will always occur at the runtime. Exception. Now there are packages. It belongs to this package is java.lang.exception package. So if you are not from Java, then you can just skip this. Error, it belongs to java.lang.error package. Exception, they are known or unknown. That is, exception, only checked exceptions are known to the compiler. Only checked exceptions. The errors will not be known to the compiler. Will not be known to the compiler. But the exceptions, the checked one are known to the compiler. Exception, it is mainly caused by the application itself. For example, the null pointer, array out of index, arithmetic exception. But error, it is mostly created by the environment in which your software or the application or the program is running. For example, the exception, you can have checked exception like SQL exception, IO exception. We have other exceptions like array out index out of bound exception. For example, your array is 100 and you can access 0 to 99. You have started accessing 100. That will be array index out of bound. In the error, we have java.lang.stack overflow, java.lang.out of memory error. That is the stack and memory problem is there. What are the characteristics of an abstract class? An abstract class. See, this is the core. In any programming language, especially in the object-oriented programming language, the abstract classes have to be implemented. You cannot instantiate it. You cannot make object of it. That is the inheritance defeats all the concept of objects. But abstract class, it is the basic concept of object-oriented programming. So abstract class is a class that is declared as abstract. So you have to put the keyword. So it cannot be instantiated. That means you cannot make an object for this abstract class. That is, I'm making a class and say the class is A. And now this class A, I can make the object of this class, right? Inside main A, I can do AOBJ1 or like that. So I can make an object for any class. Abstract, we cannot make the object. Object cannot be made. Because why to make the object? The abstract class has no implementation. It is just telling you that I am there, you have to implement me. You have to execute me, means you have to put the code inside your derived class. So that is how inheritance becomes better there. So here you see the abstract, this is the keyword. So this shape class is an abstract class, and inside that we have two abstract. Right? We have two abstract, and there are two functions which are defined as abstract, which is area and toString. So this abstract class should have at least one abstract function. That also I am going to tell you. But the main thing is, when you make the derived classes, then the thing comes that you are not going away from the object oriented paradigm, because now you just have the template and now you have to implement whatever is given in the abstract class. There is no function definition. I'll tell you one more thing. This is about Java. So we have, when you write a class can have any name, but the type should be abstract in order to make an abstract class. So you have to use the modifier abstract on a class header to declare an abstract class. So abstract class is a placeholder in a class hierarchy that represents a generic concept, and you have to implement that concept. Okay. Whichever class is inheriting, for example, we have an add function inside this vehicle. So that class which is inheriting should implement this add. There will be no implementation of add in the abstract. You have to do it when you inherit it. I hope you got the idea. So you just tell what needs to be done. You don't tell how to be done. That is done by the derived class. So instantiation cannot be done. It must be inherited. The abstract class has to be inherited. The abstract class can have both abstract and non-abstract method. If you see here, we have two abstract methods and one data member and this. And as I said, you must declare at least one abstract class in the abstract class to make an abstract. It is always public. Why it is being made? So that it can be inherited. So it will always be public. It is declared using the abstract. So the purpose of the abstract class is to provide a common definition of the base class that multiple derived class can share. Okay. So this is all about a template, a generic class, a generic concept, and this is a good inheritance, and it does not go away, or it does not, we can say, bog down the whole purpose of the object-oriented programming language, right? So abstract class is a very powerful thing, and I just encourage you to always use the abstract class. So now this add, if two classes are inheriting, one can write some other implementation like I'm showing. I'm just giving you a very vague example. So every class which is deriving can have different implementation. This is possible for a class to inherit the constructor of its base class. Is it possible? I'm talking about Java perspective. No. A class cannot inherit the constructor of its base class. This is about Java. There is a scenario, very interesting scenario. Now what happens here? Now you have to, there are 5 friends. There are 5 friends and they're good friends, and they go out for some food and beverages, etc. But one of the boy in these 5 boys, he never gives money. He is never contributing at all. The 4 other guys are contributing. Now a beautiful, very, very good looking, beautiful girls come in this group. Now the boy who is not contributing, he started contributing. He is now spending a lot of money in this group. So you have to identify which OOPS concept should be used in the following scenario. You have seen, I have already given in the pictures. The answer is runtime polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism. So runtime polymorphism is, you can say that it is the late binding. That is, it is not a compile time or early binding. It is the late binding that we need to implement it using the virtual function. It is also called as the we implement it using the function overriding. Function overriding. So I'll give an example also. But one thing is, never gave money, but when the girl came, he was so excited. On the runtime, he started paying money. So let me tell you again, runtime polymorphism. Whenever an object is bound with the functionality not at the compile time but at the runtime, when you actually run the program, it goes to the processor, then this runtime polymorphism takes place. So the runtime polymorphism can be achieved by what I just suggested you, method overriding. And method overriding, what you have to use are you have to use the virtual functions. Method overriding is that already a method is defined, the other method is also defined, same name, which needs to be called, the base class or the derived class. So in order to call the function of the derived class, you have to use the virtual function, because ultimately it is going to call the base class only, the function of the base class always. So you need to do the method overriding, that is, you want to execute your function inside the derived class. Let me give an example. This is the base class. Base class, this is the derived class. Now you see, both the classes have getData function. But the second class, which is the derived class, is derived from the base class. This is the base class. You have a function getData. This is a derived class. That is, derived class is derived from the base class. Same function, same name, everything is same. So now the implementation is different. That is, whenever I want to call derived obj, that is, I'm making an object and I'm calling obj.getData, what is going to be called? This will be called getData. This base class will be called. For that, you have to put, what you have to do? You have to put virtual in the derived class. That is, you have to make the function getData as virtual. I hope you are getting my point. If you do this obj.getData, the getData of base will be called. In order to call the derived one, you have to put a virtual. What is composition? Now, composition is somewhat of the advanced level object-oriented programming concept. So now you made a class, say class A, okay, and you made an object, say obj, wherever, main or wherever. Now you made a class B, and now what you are doing? You are taking the object of class A and putting it in your class B. So you are taking the object of class A or using the class A or referring the class A object as the variable. Say I am making class C also, I am making object 2. So class B is having object 1 and object 2, one from the A class, one from the C class. So this is the composition, has a relationship. See, Honda has a car engine. See, inheritance is also important here, and the composition is also important here, because when you are extending, a car can be Honda, a car can be Ford. So Honda is extending the car, or you can say Honda is derived from car, but has a relationship or a composition relationship is all about referring the objects of other class and using them or putting them inside your class as the variable data members. So the class B has A, class B has C, like a Honda has a car engine, a Ford has a car engine. So in Honda, in Honda class, you are putting the object of car engine class. So it describes a class that references one or more objects of other class in instance variable. So it models has an association between objects. So we can see these, as I just told you, in real world we have this Honda and car engine kind of situation will always arrive. So class B has A, class B has A, and class B has C also. I have not made the class C, but just imagine. So this is the whole scenario we are discussing. This is the composition. Normally to the beginners it won't be asked, but for the advanced or experienced C++ guys or the object-oriented programming guys, this composition is a very important concept. And this will always be asked if you are going for an experience interview. Now, if you want to change the, the benefits of composition is reusing the existing code, designing clean APIs, changing the implementation of class used in composition without adapting to any external clients. What are the differences between copy constructor and assignment operator? Assignment operator is just an operator. But we are talking about when this assignment operator is overloaded or it is used in terms of with reference to the constructor. Now this is a very very easy concept, but need to be understood. I'm giving you just an example. We have a class name. I made a class, two objects. obj1, obj2 are the two objects of class, some class. Now object 1 equals object 2, so we have assigned obj2 to obj1. So object 2 has been assigned to object 1. Now let us take one more example. Now this is of the copy constructor. See, we have a class, let us name it as sample. Now you have a constructor here. What you are doing is you are taking a and b value, initializing it to I and j. That is the work of the default constructor. It takes the value and just initialize it to I or j, which are the member variables of the class. The copy constructor is, you have the class name. Again inside you have the class name. That is, you are making class name. That is, you are actually making an object. So you are passing the reference, that is S, inside the sample. Okay, so you are copying this is a copy constructor. So actually what you are doing is you are taking this content of above constructor and putting it inside some other constructor. That is, whatever you got in ij, now you are putting this si and sj into this I and j. So you are copy. This is the copy constructor working. So it is. I'll tell you the other way also how it is done. This is the actual way how it is seen. So the copy constructor and the assignment, they both are used to initialize one object using another object. The main difference is that between the two is that the copy constructor allocates separate memory to both objects, the existing object and the newly created object, while the assignment operator does not allocate new memory for the newly created object. So if you can see here, I'm making two memory location. So we have two memory location for these two constructor which are being made using the copy constructor. So we have copied one constructor into another constructor. But here we have obj1, obj2, they are pointing to the same memory location. This is just a reference. There is all one object. Object 2 was already having a memory. Just imagine object 2 was already initialized. So object 1 is now only pointing to the location of object 2. Now see one by one. First of all, the copy constructor is an overloaded constructor. Assignment operator, it is just an operator. Copy constructor, it creates a new object as a copy of an existing object. So this is the existing and this you have copied it. The assignment operator, it assigns the value of one object to another object, both of which already exist. obj1, obj2 already created, they already exist. But copy constructor, while copy constructor, they're actually making a new constructor, and also in same time we are assigning the previous constructor content to this constructor. Okay. You can also say like this. Now let me show you another way. This is A and B, they are both constructors. So B bracket A, this is also the way you can do. So you are putting the value of a constructor into a new constructor, which is B. This is the copy constructor. Both the objects one by one. See, when the copy constructor is used when a new object is created with some existing object. This is very important. So I told you already one more thing. Both the objects in the copy constructor, they use separate memory locations. But here in assignment operator, both objects share the same memory, but use the two different reference variable that points to the same location. Copy constructor. If no copy constructor is defined, the compiler will provide you one. It is already there with you. Assignment operator is not overloaded. If it is not overloaded, then the bitwise copy will be made. As I said, this object can only be assigned when this operator is your overloaded operator.